screen quickly. All right. Can you see it now? So I'm going to read this. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 So I'll say some prayers, you don't have to repeat. Magyānitimirandhasya jnānāñjana salakaya chacchurupurmilitam yena tasmai Sri Gurave Namah. Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam sthapitam yena bhutale swayam rupakadamayam dadati swapadantikam. Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yutapadakamlam Sri Gurun Vaishnavanshya Sri Rupam Shagrajatam Shagarlantam Tam Tulsijivam. मूकं करोति वाचालं पंगुं लंघयते गिरिं तव कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुदीनकारणं वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च च कृपासिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः. Now all of you can say Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadara Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktavinna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So we are reading today from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, text number 9, purport, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. So we are reading 9th one, Sanjaya Uvacha, Ena Muktva Rishikesam,
Eva Muktva Hrishikesam.
Tura Kesha Parantapaha,
Kesha Parantapa.
Nayuktasastasya Govinda,
Naya Iti Govinda.
Muktva Tushnim Babhuha.
Babuvaha.
Translation and purport. Sanjaya said, having spoken thus, Arjuna, the chastiser of enemy, told Krishna, Govinda, I shall not fight, and fell silent. Purport. Dhritarashtra must have been very glad to understand that Arjuna was not going to fight and was instead leaving the battlefield for beggar profession. But Sanjaya disappointed him again in relating that Arjuna was competent to kill his enemies, Parantapaha. Although Arjuna was for the time being overwhelmed with fast grief due to family affection, he surrendered on to Krishna, the supreme spiritual master, as a disciple. This indicated that he would soon be free from false lamentation resulting from family affection and would be enlightened with perfect knowledge of self-realization or Krishna consciousness, would then surely fight. Thus, Dhritarashtra's joy would be frustrated since Arjuna would be enlightened by Krishna and would fight to the end, right? So basically, it's very plain thing, nothing to explain, but Dhritarashtra, you see the Dhritarashtra's secretary was Sanjaya, right? He was personal assistant, but he was very unbiased. He was not trying to please Dhritarashtra. He was telling what was truth, right? So formerly, even if you had some profession or job, people used to be very honest about what they say, what they do. Nowadays, people try to appease others to get benefit, They think if I don't talk nicely, this person will not give me reward or, not promote me. But you see, Sanjay was not doing that. Why? Because he was spiritual. He knew that everything being supplied to me is by Krishna or God. No, it's not Dhritarashtra is maintaining me. So therefore, why should I placate or, appease Dhritarashtra? That's not my job. I should do my job, right? So that's one thing you can learn. Despite Sanjay being secretary, he's very honest about it, right? Okay. Who wants to read next one?
Is it alive?
Yes, Mataji.
Tamuvacha Hrishikesa Prahasaniva Bharata Senayarubayormadhye Vishidantamidam Vachaha. O descent of Bharata, at the time of Krishna smiling in the midst of both the armies, spoke the following words to the grief-stricken Arjuna. Purport. The talk was going on between intimate friends, namely the Hrishikesa and Gudakesha. As friends, both of them were on the same level, but one of them voluntarily became a student of the other. Krishna was smiling because a friend had chosen to become a disciple. As Lord of all, He is always in the superior position as the master of everyone, and yet the Lord agrees to be a friend, a son, or a lover for a devotee who wants him in such a role. But when he has accepted as the master, he at once assumed the role and talked with the disciple like the master, with gravity as it is required. It appears that the talk between the master and the disciple was openly exchanged in the presence of both armies so that all were benefited. So the talks of Bhagavad Gita are not for any particular person, society, or community, but they are for all, and friends or enemies are equally entitled to hear them. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. So, do you guys know how many hours this talk happened? This Bhagavad Gita is spoken in how much time?
18 days.
Yeah, 18.
No,
14 days.
no. They don't have time. You can see, everyone is ready to fight. War was about to happen. You don't have time. Okay, everyone go home, eat, sleep to, and then come back. It was just, I can tell you, guess, few minutes. How many minutes? 700 slokas was spoken by Krishna in 45 minutes. The whole Bhagavad Gita was spoken in 45 minutes, and we are not able to read it even after 45 years. We like,
Just together.
yeah, this is fun fact. 45 minutes because they don't have time. Everybody is ready to fight. You can imagine, right? It's like, you have, suppose somebody's getting about to get married and then suddenly you say, I don't want to get married. You don't have time to wait for 3 days, right? Because the news will go out like, oh, this person don't want to marry, right? So Arjuna was grief stricken, but the news didn't go anywhere. Only Sanjaya was able to tell Dhritarashtra. But rest of the people were thinking, oh, Krishna and Arjuna are talking something. There is some discussion going on. And by looking at face, people can know, oh, Arjuna is a bit sad, seems like, and Krishna is explaining. But actually, it was an open discussion, but at the same time, not everyone can hear it, cannot get that realization, right? Because Krishna doesn't have a mic or broadcasting system. Okay, let's everyone hear now on battlefield what I'm going to say. Because then if you do that, then everybody start intervening. These Bhishma may come interfering. People start advising this, that. But this was confidential, in a way, a very personal discussion with Arjun and Krishna, right? So, all right, let's go to the next one. Hetal Mataji.
Okay, I'll read. Shri Bhagwan Uvacha Asochana Vasochastam Pragnavadancha Bhashashe Gatasuncha Manu Sauchati Panditaha. The Supreme Personality of God said, while speaking learned words, you are mourned from what is not worthy of grief. Those who are wise lament neither for the living nor for the dead. Purport. The Lord at once took the position of the teacher and chastised the student, called him indirectly a fool. Lord said, "You are talking like a learned man, but you do not know that one who is learned, one who knows what is body, what is soul, does not lament at any stage of the body, neither in the living nor in the dead condition." As explained in the later chapter, it will be clear that knowledge means to know matter and spirit and controlled by both. Arjuna argued that religious principles should be given more importance than politics and sociology. But he does not know that knowledge of matter soul and the supreme is even more important than the religious formulary, formularies. And because he is lacking in that knowledge, he should not have possessed himself as as a very learned man, as he did not happen to be a very learned man. He was consequently lamented for something which is unworthy of lamentation. The body is born, and destination to be vanquished today and or tomorrow. Therefore, the body is not as important as soul. One who knows this is actually learned, and for him there is no cause of lamentation, regardless of the condition of the material body. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Very interesting thing here. Just one point to say, because it's very clear, Prabhupada explained already, that many times also, even we, or in our life, or some friend, you will see, they pose very learned. They will explain, I know this, I know how to control things, how to manage things. But when some situation hits their life, they're like lamenting like a baby. They don't know what to do. It's like, I'm a very big professor of something, but when a problem comes in my life, I'm like, oh, I don't know what to do, right? So that's not good idea, right? Because it's a hypocrisy. Like somebody is talking very nice, very learned, but then when they go in their room, they are doing all kind of nonsense, right? Hypocrisy. Out of the two symptoms of Kali Yuga, one symptom is hypocrisy, other is quarrel, fighting, and hypocrisy. These are the two symptoms of Kali Yuga. You will find everywhere quarrel and hypocrisy. If quarrel is missing, hypocrisy would be there. If hypocrisy is missing, quarrel would be there, right? And most of time, hypocrisy leads to quarrel, right? Or sometimes people try to avoid quarrel and they do hypocrisy because they try to, be nice and trying to manage things in being hypocritic way, right? So that's what Arjuna is doing here. And actually, he is playing a role. He is not like that. He's friend of Krishna. He's very enlightened, but he's just playing this role. Okay. Text 12. Who wants to read? Very important words from Bhagavad Gita. This is one of it.
I'll read Prabhuji.
Let's check another Mataji or Prabhuji. The iPhone. Who is this person? Can you tell your name and if you want to read this?
Shall I read?
Yes, your name, Prabhu?
I'm Ramchandra actually.
Ah, Ramchandra. Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
you can read this. Yeah.
One second. Yeah. न तव न तवैवं जटुनाशं न तवैं नेम जनादीपं न कैव न भविष्यं सर्वे वयम् अतः परम्. Translation. Never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor all kings, nor in the future shall any of us cease to be. Purport. In the Vedas, in the Katha Upanishad, as well as in the Svatara Upanishad, it is said that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the maintainer of innumerable living entities in terms of their different situations according to individual work and reaction of work. Thus, that Supreme Personality of Godhead is also, by his plenary portions, alive in the heart of every living entity. Only saint persons who can see within and without the same Supreme Lord can actually attain the perfect and eternal peace.
I can read this for you, Sanskrit, Ramchandra.
Yeah, okay.
Nityo, everyone can repeat after me. It's very nice words. You should try to remember. Nityo Nityanam,
Nityo
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 Nityanam
Nityanam
Chetanas
Nityanam
Chetananam,
Chetanam
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 Eko Bahuman Yo,
Eko
Eko
Bahunam
Bhavanyo
Yo
Nam
Vidhati Kaman,
Vidati
Vidhati
Yudhati
Kaman
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 Tam atmasyam ye
Tam
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 atmasam
atmasyam
ye
ye
anupasyanti dhiras
anupasyanti
anupasyanti
dhira
drashtas
tesa santi
tesham sa
santi
santi
Saraswati netrashram
saraswati
saraswati
netrasyam.
netrasyam.
Netrasham.
Katha Upanishad 2.2.30. You can read
Yeah,
from here, Ram.
yeah,
Just
okay.
semi.
The same basic truth given to Arjuna is given to all the persons in the world who pose themselves as very learned but factually have a poor fund of knowledge. The Lord says clearly that He Himself, Arjuna, and all the kings who are assembled on the battlefield are eternally individual beings, and that the Lord is eternally the maintainer of the individual living entities, both in their conditioned and in their liberated situations. The supreme personality of God is the supreme individual person and the Arjuna. The Lord eternal associate and all the kings assembled there are individual eternal persons. It is not that they did not exist individuals in the past, and it is not that they will not remain eternal persons. Their individuality existed in the past, and their individuality will continue in the future without interruption. Therefore, there is no cause for lamentation for anyone. The Mayavadi theory that after liberation, the individual soul, separated by the covering of Maya or illusion, will emerge into an impersonal Brahmin or lose its individual existence is not supported herein by Lord Krishna, the supreme authority. Nor is the theory that we only think of individuality in the conditioned state supported herein. Clearly, Krishna says herein that in the future also the individuality of Lord Krishna and others, as it is confirmed in the Upanishads, will continue eternally. This statement of Krishna is authoritative because Krishna cannot be a subject to illusion. If individuality were not a fact, then Krishna would not have stressed it so much or even for the future. The Mayavadi may argue that the individuality spoken of by Krishna is not spiritual but material. Even accepting the argument that the individuality is a material, that how can one distinguish Krishna's individuality? Krishna affirms his individuality in the past and confirms his individuality in the future also. He has confirmed his individuality in many ways. Impersonal Brahmin have been declared to be subordinate to him. Krishna has maintained spiritual individuality all along if he accepted as an ordinary conditioned soul in individual consciences, then his Bhagavad Gita has no value as authoritative scripture. A common man with all four defects of human frailty is unable to teach that which is worth hearing. The Gita is above such literature. No mundane book compares with the Bhagavad Gita. When one accepts Krishna as an ordinary man, the Gita loses all importance. The Mayavadi argues that the plurality mentioned in these words is conventional and that refers to the body. But previous to these words, such as bodily conception, is already condemned. After condemning the bodily conception of living entities, how was it possible for Krishna to place conventional proposition on the body again? Therefore, individuality is maintained on spiritual grounds and is thus confirmed by the great akars like Sri Ramanuja and others. It is clearly mentioned in many places in the Gita that this spiritual individuality is understood by those who are devotees of Lord. Those who are envious of Krishna as the supreme personality of Godhead have no bona fide access to the great literature. The non devotee approach to the teachings of Gita is something like that of bee licking on bottle of honey. One cannot have taste of honey unless one opens the bottle. Similarly, the mysticism of the Bhagavad Gita can be understood only by devotees, and no one can taste it as it is stated in the fourth chapter of the book. Nor can the Gita be touched by a person who envy very existence of Lord. Therefore, the Mayavadi explanation of the Gita is most misleading presentation of whole truth. The Lord Chaitanya have forbidden us to read commentations made by the Mayavadis and warns that one who takes to such an understanding of Mayavadi philosophy loses all powers to understand the real mystery of Gita. If individuality refers to the empirical universe, then there is no need of teaching by the Lord. The plurality of the individual soul and the Lord is an eternal fact, and it is confirmed by the Vedas as above mentioned.
Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you. Hare Krishna.
So everyone understood what we were talking. What is the concept is getting cleared by Krishna. Krishna is saying that everyone is individual. Okay. And previous to this verse, he said that the body is not important, the soul is important, right? You read that verse where we can go back just to refresh it in a minute. So Bhagavan Uvacha. So Vyasadeva is not saying Krishna Uvacha, or he's not saying, Deva Vacha. He's saying Bhagavan Uvacha. And when you see Bhagavan Uvacha, it means that Vyasadeva is the supreme authority in Vedic knowledge and the whole knowledge at that time. Vyasadeva is like most educated scientist, philosopher, religionist, and he is calling Krishna as Bhagavan. So you remember definition of Bhagavan. Now what did Bhagavan said? Krishna said, "Oh, while you're talking about learned word Arjun, you're lamenting, grieving for something not worthy, because people who are learned don't lament for living or dead. They don't attach to the body, right? So then in this sloka, he said, everyone existed time immemorial and they will continue to exist in future. But then there is a two philosophies in the area of philosophy. One philosophy is called Mayavad philosophy, which is major religions, what you see in the public. I won't take the names, but and maybe just for sake of your name, I should tell you, because you should know whom you are dealing with. Okay. So major philosophies, which is nowadays prevalent, is Mayavad philosophy. Okay. Whether it is Sri Ravi Shankar, Satguru, Ramakrishna Mission, all these Vedanta philosophy and Vedanta, whatever people, Vedanta groups, most of them, they don't believe Krishna as a god. They think it's a good, great person, very great historian, knowledgeable person, but they think that Krishna is not a god. And they further think that everyone is God. Okay. So they think that at some point you can become God, I can become God. And they think that when you become God, then everything becomes merged into big God. Now we are a small God, and later we merge, our soul merge and become a big God. This is their philosophy. Okay, but it is flawed, because Krishna, as authority, is saying everyone is individual. And practically we know everyone is different. You are different, because if everyone was same, then why there is differences, right? In our nature, our behavior, right? And Prabhupada is further explaining that if they even misrepresent this sloka of Krishna also. They say, oh, Krishna is saying that everyone is same because everyone exists, right? The same way, same nature, right? So what they say, that everything is same. And not only that, they say that Brahma Satya Jagat Mithya. They say that, okay, Brahman, which is light, white light, what they call, Brahma Jyoti is the truth and the world is false. This is like misleading. And they try to enjoy a whole world, but they think it's false, right? They are building big institution, money. So if they think world is false, then why don't you become a beggar? Why don't you just don't go on the street, and why you have big mansions, car, luxury, everything is false, right? Or you yourself is false because your body is false. But why you're maintaining it then? So these all groups you will hear, big groups. They are like millions of people following. But this is Mayavad. And it's unfortunate. You can't do much. We can talk about what real Bhagavad Gita says at Prabhupada, right? So Prabhupada explaining, you remember the example of sun? We discussed last week. Sun, light, sun disk, and sun planet. So Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan realization, right? So we are dealing right now with Bhagavan realization because Bhagavan Uvacha. Krishna is Bhagavan, right? So we are not Atma watch, we are not one watch, it's Bhagavan watch. So you're already on a third platform, on top platform we are talking right now. But Krishna is trying to clarify Arjuna first with Sankhya Yoga. It's called Sankhya Yoga, which is Sankhya Yoga is nothing but the study of science of soul and body. Like what is body, what is soul, how they are different. It's called Sankhya Yoga. Okay. So all these Sankaracharya followers, big Mayavadis, they think that there is no God. Everybody is God. You can become God. I can become God. At some point, we are covered by Maya right now. And then Krishna is also Maya. They think Krishna is made of Maya. He was a great person, but he is not a god. This is falsity. So therefore, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu avoid us to hear such people explanation because it will contaminate our consciousness, and we will never able to understand actually. Okay, and Prabhupada giving example like Mayavadis who explain such philosophies. Actually, they have never read Bhagavad Gita. It's like they are licking honey bottle from outside, but they will never get a taste of honey because they are not able to go inside the bottle and get the honey out. They're just outside, licking and saying, "Oh, honey is bitter, honey is salty, honey." They are giving their mental concoction. They have never tasted the honey, which is like message of Bhagavad Gita, right? So be careful. Be careful out there. The reason I said because you have to be careful on whom you are dealing with, right? So, like next sloka, who wants to read? This
Can
is
I read,
another one.
Prabhuji?
Yes, yes, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Dandavad Pranam.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. This is for recitation, for by heart. देहिनोऽस्मिन् यथा देहे कौमारं यौवनं जरा तथा देहान्तरप्राप्तिं धीरस्तत्र न मुह्यति. As the embodied soul continuously passes in this body from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at death. A sober person is not bewildered by such a change. Hare Krishna. Should I continue or anyone else?
Yes, Prabhu. Yeah, please continue.
Purpose. Since every living entity is an individual soul, each is changing his body every moment, manifesting sometimes as a child, sometimes as a youth, and sometimes as an old man. Yet the same spirit soul is there and does not undergo any change. This individual soul finally changes the body at death and transmigrates to another body. And since it is sure to have another body in the next birth, either material or spiritual, there was no cause of lamentation by Arjuna on account of death, neither of Bhishma nor of Drona, for whom he was so much concerned. Rather, he should rejoice for their changing bodies from old to new ones, thereby rejuvenating their energy. Such changes of body account for varieties of enjoyment or suffering according to one's work in life. So Bhishma and Drona, being noble souls, were surely going to have spiritual bodies in the next life, or at least life in heavenly bodies for superior enjoyment of material existence. So in either case, there was no cause of lamentation. Any man who has perfect knowledge of the constitution of the individual soul, the super soul, and nature, both material and spiritual, is called a dhira or a most sober man. Such a man is never deluded by the change of bodies. The Mayavadi theory of oneness of the spirit soul cannot be entertained on the ground that the spirit soul cannot be cut into pieces as a fragmental portion. Such cutting into different individual souls would make the supreme cleavable or changeable against the principle of the supreme souls being unchangeable. As confirmed in the Gita, the fragmental portions of the supreme exist eternally, sanatana, and are called kshara. That is, they have a tendency to fall down into material nature. These fragmental portions are externally, these fragmental portions are eternally so, and even after liberation, the individual soul remains the same, fragmental. But once liberated, he lives as he lives an eternal life in bliss and knowledge with the personality of Godhead. The theory of reflection can be applied to the super soul who is present in each and every individual body and is known as the Paramatma. He is different from the individual living entity. When the sky is reflected in water, the reflections represent both the sun and the moon and the stars also. The stars can be compared to the living entities and the sun or the moon to the Supreme Lord. The individual fragmental spirit soul is represented by Arjuna, and the Supreme Soul is the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. They are not on the same level, as it will be apparent in the beginning of the fourth chapter. If Arjuna is on the same level with Krishna, and Krishna is not superior to Arjuna, then their relationship of instructor and instructed becomes meaningless. If both of them are deluded by the illusory energy Maya, then there is no need of one being the instructor and the other the instructed. Such instruction would be useless because in the clutches of Maya, no one can be an authoritative instructor. Under the circumstances, it is admitted that Lord Krishna is the Supreme Lord, superior in position to living entity, Arjuna, who is a forgetful soul deluded by Maya. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. So basically, I think summary is this dehino asmin yatha dehe kaumaram yoram jara tatha dehantaram prapti dhiram tatra namuchyate. So suppose I will give this nice example I often give and maybe it relates very nice to us. Suppose Hetal Mataji want Hetal Mataji have a Suzuki, Maruti Suzuki car, okay? And I have a Tesla. Okay, I have a Tesla, brand new. And I tell Hetal Mataji, can you exchange your Maruti Suzuki with my Tesla? I'm sure she will not hesitate. She will not even think one time, like, okay, let's exchange my old car. Why do I care, anyways? You know, it's old model. I don't want. I'm getting Tesla. Let's exchange it, right? Immediately we will exchange because you will not even ask question. Did you get it from? You know, are you going mad, or you're thinking like, because maybe you know me, if you some new person come, you may say, okay, are you going mad, why you want to do this, are you serious, I really want to do this, right? But but if you know the person and the person says, okay, let's do it, you'll say, all right, maybe this person is very generous, wants to do this, let me take this. But suppose same thing, if I go to Hedar Mataji and say, Mataji, can you give me your Maruti Suzuki car? But when she looks at me, she said, "Oh, I don't have anything." She knows that if she gives her car, she will have no car, basically, right? Because she give me her old car, so she will hesitate to give me even old car because she's in future she don't know if she will have car or not. So therefore, let's stick to that car which is there, even if it is not very nice, even if it is not a very fancy, but just because I have no choice, or Hetal Mataji have no choice, she is hesitant to say that, right? So likewise, if we know, if we know, if we are convinced, we know, but if we get convinced that after leaving this old body, which we all have some kind of disease, some problem going on. If you are 100% sure that after leaving this body, you will get a new body, a fresh body, you will not worry about death, because death is nothing, that you will change your body. So your soul is going to a new body. But to do that, to get convinced of these things, this thing, we need to believe, first of all, there is a soul in the body. We are not even 100% convinced that there is a soul in the body. Definitely, if you go core of your heart and you sit down and you ask this question to yourself, what I am, the first thing will come in your mind is, I am body. Because we are not able to realize that soul. It's called self-realization. Like 100% time, we are not able to think about, I'm soul, I am soul. No. Because if somebody hits me, I will say, oh, my body is hit. Because I think I'm a body. I don't say I'm a soul. Okay, no problem. And not only that, I am a body. My body, it belongs to this caste, this color, this gender, this religion, this family. I am the husband, I am the wife, I am the children, I am the scientist, I am the engineer, I am the rich, I am the poor, I am the beautiful, I am the ugly, I am sick. So many designations attached to the body, right? And we identify ourselves with all the designation except the soul. We don't. This is the illusion. This is what illusion. You can directly manifest this whole thing in your life, and you'll think, oh yes, why I'm not able to think that I'm a soul? Because we don't have a training, right? Our mind is engrossed. And therefore we cannot understand this sloka, because when this Krishna says, oh, the soul will pass from one body to another, being think then okay, maybe. But to realize this sloka may take lifetime. That I'm old, my body is going to pass. Why should I not get bewildered? So basically, to become a dhira, to become a sober person, is a great achievement. But it can come by practice. How? Because we have seen our acharyas, our gurus, our great devotees have become like that. So we can also become like that. That we don't care about changing the body, which is death. And if somebody don't fear death, you become fearless. You become joyful, because then you're not worried about anything in your life. But sometimes people don't fear death, they become crazy. They start killing others because they think that, oh, I don't fear death, right? So this message understanding also has to be in line with Krishna, not that, oh, I think I don't care about death, then I start killing others, like terrorist people, right? There's in Middle East, the terrorists think that, I don't fear death, I will go to Allah, but then they become human bombs, right? Suicide bombs, right? You see that movies, and actually it's real, not just movies. It's real right now going on in the world, right? They also think they are not, they don't fear death, but that's a negative way, right? Positive way, that I'm not this body, which means that I become detached and I start focusing on what I am then. So then once you know that you're not that body, the next question comes, then what I am. Athato Brahma Jigyasha, right? That's where the first step in spiritual life. First, to know you're not this material body. And the second question you should know, you should have, then what I am. And then answer will come, oh, you're a spirit soul. Then, okay, so where I come from? Okay, you come from God. Okay, so what does God look like? What is my nature? These questions starts coming. What is my relationship with God? Is God is with me? Yes, God is in your heart as a super soul. Then you start questioning all that around. Where I come from, where I'll go, what will happen if I leave this body, right? This is the slogan. Staring, you will get, just like you have grown, we all have grown, right? It's a whole lecture. I don't want to, we don't have time a lot, but we'll touch base again throughout Bhagavad Gita about this migration of soul from one body to another body, okay? And one of the best example here is given here. Just like we all have been a baby, sometime born in past, but now we have grown. So our body has changed. And scientifically, I think every 20 days, our body changes. Your whole protein, muscles, carb, everything changes in 120 days, recycled. So we are never the same body. Our body has changed, but we remember everything because our experiences are stored not in the body. They are in our spirit, our consciousness, right? Because even brain cells have kind of recycled their protein, their carb, their fat. It renewed. It's renewing continuously, getting replaced. Okay, but internally, but the consciousness preserved, right? It's a big science. Nobody understands this. Okay, so Bhagavad Gita explaining us that you are not this body or spirit. So Hetal Mataji wanted to leave. I think she already left. So that's good. But we can continue for another 15-20 minutes just to finish this chapter for, not chapter, but finish for today's quota of 20 sloka. Okay. Okay. Who wants to read next one? Okay. I'll read. Mat asparsastu kaunteya. You all can repeat.
माता संस्पर्श
मात्रास्तु स्पर्शस्तु कौन्तेय
शीतोष्ण सुख दुःखदा
शीतोष्ण सुख दुःखदा
अगामा अगामा आपायिनो अनित्यास
अगामा पायुन्य अनित्य
ताम तितिक्षस्व भारत
तां
तितिक्षस्व
तितिस्व भारत.
Translation purport. Ocean of Kunti, the non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress, and their disappearance in due course, are like appearance and disappearance of winter and summer seasons. They arise from sense perception, O shine of Bharata, and one must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. Here's the key, right? Let's read purport. In the proper discharge of duty, one has to learn to tolerate non-permanent appearance and disappearance of happiness and distress. According to Vedic injunction, one has to take his bath daily early in the morning, even during the month of Magh, January and February. It is very cold at that time, but in spite of that, a man who abides by the religious principle does not hesitate to take his bath. Similarly, a woman does not hesitate to cook in the kitchen in the month of May and June, the hottest part of the summer season. One has to execute his duty in spite of climatic inconveniences. Similarly, to fight is the religious principle of a Kshatriya. And although one has to fight with some friend or relative, one should not deviate from his prescribed duty. One has to follow the prescribed rules and regulation of religious principles in order to rise up to the platform of knowledge, because by knowledge and devotion only can one liberate himself from the clutches of Maya illusion. The two different names of address given to Arjuna are also significant. To address him as Kaunteya signifies his blood relation from his mother's side, and to address him as Bharata signifies his greatness of his father's side. From both sides, he is supposed to have a great heritage. A great heritage brings responsibilities in the matter of proper discharge of duties, and therefore he cannot avoid fighting. You see that? So, because Krishna said, don't worry your body, your spirit soul. Then Krishna said, oh, everyone is individual. They existed in the past. They are existing now. They will exist in the future. Then last sloka we read, Krishna said, what did Krishna say? Are you remembering? Paying attention? I'm just checking. What does Krishna say last sloka? I'm asking everyone, except Kaustav Prabhu. What does it Krishna say in the last sloka?
Identify who I am.
No, everyone has a book, or you don't have a book right now with you?
And right now, Prabhuji don't have a book.
Okay, Ramchand Prabhu, Ramchandji, you have?
No, I'm just following yours.
Yeah, so I think Everyone should get a book, your physical copy. It will help you because then you can easily, it comes small size also, big size also, you can keep in your bag. So let's go back. Krishna said that the soul body passes from body to body. So try to listen and remember, okay, I know it's hard and first time you may not, but don't worry, don't get discouraged. So Krishna said last point that, the body is just changing, soul is changing the body, and a sober person don't care, which is death is nothing change of the body, right? Essentially, if you believe that there is a soul which gets a new body after death, so what is death? Just 9 months sleeping condition. In 9 months, baby will be again born in a new body, the same soul. So why worry? Actually, it should be celebration because the person who was sick, old, suffering, I got a new body. This body became useless. So you, like a car, you change the car, you change the cloth, you change so many things when it becomes useless, right? You never sit down with your old car and sit down and cry with it. You'll say, "Oh, okay, I'll get a new one. I have money, I can get it." Right? So likewise, if you have this philosophy, then you can easily overcome all the fear in world, which is the fears, sum total of fear is death. Everyone fears death. Now, now somebody can say, oh, but still there is happiness and distress, right? Because if you lose someone, you may become distressed, right? And if you gain something, you may become happy. So how to manage this thing, right? So then Krishna is explaining. Just a minute. Okay. So Krishna explaining Mata Spasastu Kaunteya Sitoshna Sukha Dukkada Agama Apayino Anitya Tam Titikshishwa Bharata. He's saying this, and what Krishna is saying, we all have experience. Sometimes we get distress, sometimes we get happiness. Both is bad. Now you can ask, okay, I know distress is bad, but how come happiness is bad? Happiness is also bad in the sense that if you get a lot of happiness, you may go mad. Like somebody win a lottery of $1 million and became mad next hour because he or she doesn't know where to spend and got so mad, right? Yeah, I would have seen people die of heart attack because they got suddenly so much money. They don't know. They cannot control that happiness, right? They cannot tolerate, right? So Krishna is saying it's like a winter and summer. You don't lament if the winter is coming or summer is going. You know that okay, summer came, winter will come. Winter went, summer will come. It's like a rotation, right? So likewise, happiness and distress, Krishna is saying, "O son of Kunti," reminding his mother side, and then he says, "O shrine of Bharata," reminding his father side that you should what to do. What should Arjuna do? What is Krishna saying? Are all of you with me, or
Nothing is
what I'm saying doesn't make sense? Like,
nothing is permanent.
no, that is true. But then what should Arjuna do? How should he deal with happiness and distress?
He should
Read the
treat
line.
fully
Yeah.
and he has to go accordingly.
No, Mataji, you're not reading the line. You read the translation, last line.
So, uh, we should have some tolerance, Prabhuji.
Must. It says the word must learn to.
Tolerate them.
Not saying some. It's like, so where this come from? Sense perception, right? We all know the happiness and distress is a state of mind, actually. You know, state of mind. Because when people go in coma, they cannot feel anything. Even if you pinch their body, they will not feel anything. You give them, 10 kilo gold, they won't care because their senses are not active. The moment our sense perception is active, we start feeling happiness and distress. But how you can, if suppose my sense perception is active and I'm getting into situation of happiness and distress, then I will react to it, right? Definitely, right? because I'm active
Yes,
sense.
Prabhuji.
So then how can you avoid that? The only way that you must learn to tolerate. But the next question is, okay, I will
Is it
tolerate.
easy, Prabhuji?
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, next question. Thank you. So the next question is it going to be easy, Krishna? You know, then Krishna is saying, because sometimes like big yogis and gyanis, they tolerate, right? They tolerate bodily disturbances, happiness disturbance, they tolerate. And then, but then they become eccentric. They become angry. They become so much anger in their mind. And if you pinch them little bit, suppose somebody is tolerating so much to you, and if you little bit pinch in them, they will become agitated like anything. They'll say, enough of toleration. I'm going to now teach you a lesson now. I'm done with you. So toleration alone is not enough. Without being disturbed. This is hard part. Somebody can tolerate for whole life, but don't be disturbed. What is that? It's so hard, right? Without being disturbed, right?
Prabhuji.
Correct?
Yes, Prabhuji.
So suppose if somebody can do this, how great they become. If they can tolerate the happiness and distress of life without being disturbed, you become a topmost yogi. You become dhira. Basically, you become dhira, right? You become dhira. Only way you can tolerate to know that you are not that body, because body is taking through sense perception and giving you all the message in your brain. Happiness, distress, switching on, off, on, off. What if you know these are temporary? This is my body experiencing all that. I am different than this my body, and I'm a soul. And once you start observing you are a soul, then only you can do this. You can tolerate, but at the same time, you don't become disturbed because it's all temporary, doesn't belong to me. One day I have to leave all this and go. So why should I trouble myself right now in this body, right? Isn't it? Is there any other way
Yes,
to
Prabhuji.
tolerate and not being disturbed? Okay. Everyone agrees, right?
Yes,
Any to
yes,
say?
Prabhuji.
Okay. So let's read 2, 3 slokas and then we will quickly read and then end the session. Okay. Who wants to read this one?
Can I, Prabhuji?
Yes, Mataji.
यम ही यम ही न व्यत्यंतते पुरुषम पुरुषर्भ सम दुख सुखम धीरम सो अमृत तव्याय कल्पते. Translation: O best among men, Arjuna, the person who is not disturbed by happiness and distress and is steady is in both is certainty eligible for liberation. Anyone who is steady in his determination for the advanced stage of spiritual realization and can equally tolerate the onslaught of distress and happiness is certainty. A person eligible for liberation in the one
Varnashrama.
Varnashrama institution, the fourth stage of life, namely the renounced order. Sannyas is a painstaking situation, but one who is serious about making his life perfect surely adopt the sannyas relationships to give up connection of wife and children. But if anyone is able to tolerate such difficulties, surely his path to spiritual realization is complete. Similarly, in Arjuna's discharge of duties as a Kshatriya, he is advised to preserve even if it is difficult to fight with his family member or similarly beloved person. Lord uh,
Lord Chaitanya.
Lord Chaitanya took sannyasa at the age of 24, and his dependent young wife as well as old mother had no one else to look after them.
Yet for a higher cause, he took sannyasa and was studied in the discharge of higher duties. That is the way of achieving liberation from material bondage. Hare Krishna
Correct.
Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Mataji. So then Krishna is saying here, I told you that you become a dhira. And what do you get? If you can tolerate happiness and distress without being disturbed, you get liberation. You know, these people, big people, big Mayavadis, they're trying to get liberation from material bondage. But if you just can do one thing, but they cannot do this, they cannot tolerate happiness, distress, because they get frustrated, because they don't have a focus, they don't have a right knowledge. So they fall down, right? But if you do that, as per Krishna is saying here, if you can just do this, tolerate happiness and distress without being disturbed, then you get a liberation, right? So let's see. Next one. Who wants to read? You should know, everyone should voluntarily go. Next person, I shouldn't call. Now we know each other, right? Ramachandra, you want to read? Are you?
Yeah, yes, probably. Yeah. Uh, Nasoto vidyayate bhavo, nabhovo vidyayate sata. Ubhavor api drasto natastava anyayos tattva dasirbaha. Translation: those who are seers of truth have concluded that of the non-existent material body there is no endurance, and of the eternal soul there is no change. This is they have concluded by studying the nature of both. Purport: there is no endurance of changing body, that the body is changing every moment by the actions and the reactions of different cells is admitted by modern medical science, and thus growth and old age are taking place in the body. But the spirit soul exists permanently, remaining the same despite of all changes of the body and the mind. That is the difference between the matter and the spirit. By the nature, the body is ever changing and the soul is eternal. This conclusion is established by all classes of seers of the truth, both impersonalists and the personalists. In the Vishnu Purana 2.12.38, it is stated that Vishnu and his abodes all have self-illuminated spiritual existence. Jyotimi Vishnur Bhuvanani Vishnu. The words existence and the non-existence refers only to a spirit and the matter. That is the version of all seers of truth. This is the beginning of instruction by the Lord to the all living entities who are bewildered by the influence of ignorance. Removal of ignorance involves the re-establishment of eternal relationship between the worshipper and the worshipable, and the consequent understanding of difference between the part and the parcel living entities and the supreme personality of Godhead. One can understand the nature of supreme by thorough study of oneself. The difference between the oneself and the supreme being understand as the relationship between the part and the whole. In the Vedanta Sutras as well as in the Srimad Bhagavatam, the Supreme have been accepted as the origin of all emanations. Such emanations are experienced by superior inferior natural consequences sequences. Sorry. The living and the living entities belong to the superior nature as it will be revealed in the seventh chapter. Although there is no difference between the energy and the energetic, the energetic is accepted as the supreme and the energy or the nature is accepted as a subordinate. The living entity is therefore always subordinate to the Supreme Lord. As in the case of master and servant, or the teacher and the taught, such to the Supreme Lord as in the case of master and the servant. Oh, sorry. Such clear knowledge is impossible to understand the spell of ignorance. And drive away such ignorance, the Lord teaches the Bhagavad Gita for enlightenment of all living entities for all time.
Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you. Hare
Thank you. So I think we are close to the time, and I really don't want to stretch longer. So maybe for this chapter, we may have to do additional session because I don't want to rush through and just finish. At the same time, don't want to stretch longer. Okay. So maybe we'll stop here. Let me see next sloka, how big it is. Yeah, it's a big one. So we don't want to rush through. Okay. Is that okay to everyone?
Yes, Prabhuji. Prabhuji.
So here, just quickly, we'll conclude here that Krishna is further saying, basically, to become Dhira, what you need to know. You should know that this body will die. We all know this body dies, like our parents or our our grandfather and whatever we have seen people dying. We see daily people die, but the body is burned and then it becomes all ashes. So the body is not permanent, because if it is permanent, it should stay like this. We know it's non-permanent. Krishna, that's what Krishna is saying. But one thing we don't know. This is what we don't know. We know this body is non-permanent. It dies, finished. But we don't know about the second part, which is soul. We think soul also dies because we have no idea about it. We have no information. What is the nature of soul? What is the size of soul? How does soul acts? What is the from where soul come from? Where it will go? We have no, actually in the world there is no institution teaching about. There is no university or department in any university out there in the world we teach about soul, the science of soul. But actually, all of us, what experience is a soul? We are a spirit. We do experience it, but we don't know much about it. That's unfortunate, right? And this is because of our education system, the way whole thing is designed. Actually, we should be more taught about the soul than the body, because body is temporary, right? So what is the point of talking or discussing something temporary? Let's talk about something permanent. Even hypothetically, okay, if you don't believe in, let's give a hypothesis. Soul is permanent. Now let's disprove it. Okay, let's study and disprove it. And if you cannot disprove it, then you have to accept it. That's a science. In science, what you do, you create an hypothesis, something is this, and then you try to disprove it. And if you cannot disprove it by all the means, then you accept that hypothesis correct and it becomes science, isn't it? Right? Everyone agrees to that, right? People who, I know a lot of you from science background, and that's how the science is conducted. You say this is what it is, then you try to disprove it, that this is not it is. And then if you cannot disprove it, that's a real science. All right?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes. So that's what Prabhupada is talking here, that he is going further now, talking about what is spirit soul, from where it come from. So we'll touch in our next sloka is gonna come in detail. Krishna is going to talk about it. Okay. Anybody has any questions, comments before we end? Hare Krishna. Okay. Ramachan,
Hare
do you have?
Krishna, Prabhu.
Yes.
Tomorrow there will be exam.
Yes.
How is the response? How many are
How many
appearing
of
from?
you here are going to come for exam tomorrow or Monday?
Prabhuji, I write on Monday, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhuji. I will also on Monday.
I will be
Ramachan?
taking today. Yeah, Sunday.
Tomorrow.
No,
Today.
sorry, Sunday.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
You are where?
Okay.
Sorry.
Where are you located, Ramchan?
I'm in St. Louis, Missouri.
So
Okay,
tomorrow
St. Louis.
10 o'clock in India. So what will be the time there?
It will be like night time. India
Nine.
time means here it will be like 8:30 p.m.
8:30.
Okay, okay,
Yeah.
that will not be inconvenient.
Okay.
So that portion will be from only from the
Right.
first
So we'll
adhyay,
end here.
first
In
chapter.
any other thing, Kaustav Prabhu?
Is it like more on subjective or like?
It is objective. It is not
Oh,
subjective. It is little descriptive. It is written that between 80 to 150 words you will have to write. There
okay.
will be 5 questions. Out of them, you will have to solve only 3. So each
Okay.
answer should be between around 80 to 150 words
I
out
see.
of
Okay.
5.
Okay. Yeah.
And only